Amazing. So I think we'll kick off, Julian. This is you are our only speaker today because one of our other community members had to drop off for another slot. So it might be
No worries.
a relatively quick one today, but again, take your time, and we're here to ask questions, answer questions, and things like that. So I'll stop talking, but thank you again for everyone for joining, and I'll hand over to you, Julian.
Sure. Thanks. I don't think I actually have much to say, and not so much about Java, so I hope you're not going to be disappointed.
Oh,
Um,
maybe Julian, you could give us a bit of
yes,
an introduction on yourself. That's always
I'll
a good
do that.
start.
Yeah, so I'm leading developer relations or external developer relations at a company called Adyen. And Adyen, if we're doing our job correctly, you might not know about us because we're behind payments in a lot of companies, and you obviously use us every day because we're behind Spotify, we're behind Ubisoft, Valve, Google, Apple, you name it, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. We do a lot of payments, and well, I do developer relations. That's a new job for me. That's been just about a year, and that's starting the job. I started realizing, oh, developer experience is actually important, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you a little bit about. So I'm not actually going to talk much about Java. I'm just going to talk about, I think, my story around Gitpod, because I'm really, really against cloud IDs. I'm an old guy. I've always said that in a couple times in the chat. I think I really love my local setup, but I really realized that it could help us in some ways, and we actually do use it every day. So that's what I thought I would be sharing. Um, Very quickly for Adyen, and something very simple we do. We allow you to have like a payment on your page, right? If you order food, typically that's our stuff that you see on the page. And for newcomers, sounds not like sounds easy, right? If you take, for example, the Java sample that I have up here, it's really easy. You clone the sample, then you do a Gradle run, and then you're running, etc. Thing is, a lot of the companies that we're you know that are our merchants, they actually might not be allowed to clone stuff. And still, it's kind of like friction if you just want to try things. And that's where we got interested into Gitpod. So we basically integrated. And the second reason for us to like it is we're actually, at the time, we're two developer advocates, and we kind of have 11 samples to take care of. And we have like one Go, one Ruby, one PHP, one Java, and then one .NET, and that's hell to maintain. I don't want to have, I have one Mac, and I don't want to have to maintain Python and Go and PHP. And that's really the thing for us that really helped us with um, moving to Gitpod. So I mean, I'll do you do see my screen, right? Let's see.
Yep, all
You-
good.
It's,
All good.
yeah, all right.
Yes.
Or maybe I can share the link. It's gonna be mildly like moderately interesting for you folks because we don't give test accounts like you would at Sneak, for example. You can't just subscribe and have a test account with us. You kind of have to go through the sales process first, but then you want to try out. Um, and oh, I'm not signed in, so I'm gonna have to sign in. And well, I'm sure you're all very used to the Gitpod experience, right? You click and then you wait, and then your thing is running, and you're done, and you can work. Um, One thing that I do want to mention that I have thought about, and maybe you folks at Gitpod can actually help me with, is we use API keys, right? Our sample is useless without, and there you go, 5 seconds, and boom, you have your thing running. And we already have people came to us and said, hey, that's actually nice because um, if I'm demoing to a customer, I don't have to care so much. I can just click and then show them, and then the URL is available to all of you now, I think, right? Yeah, it's public. So, oh, that's not this one that I should share. It's the other one. My bad. If you try something out and you want to show them and then you want to move the CSS really quickly, you can share them the URL and they're on the Zoom call and then they try them themselves. And then that's very nice. Or you want to remove PayPal and then you want to add a Klarna, then, they can really quickly see it. So that's really what we liked in Gitpod. The one thing that we kind of had to do that I haven't showed here is for every single sample that we have, we do have three API or three environment variables that are needed. Like we do have to have API key there. And maybe you can answer me, but I really hated the idea of having click, the magical click on opening a Gitpod button, and then you go in and it crashes because your API key is not set. That's because that ruins the magical experience. So what I'm asking now is first to log in Gitpod once, set an environment variable, and then the one-click option, because it's also going to work in all of the repositories. I would have loved being able to have my own button where people can, where I can pick the API key of people somehow, somewhere. I haven't tried the right way to do it yet. I've seen that it's possible in the URL, for example, but then you kind of have your API key in the open out there, which I don't really want to. Anyways, but that's where we are. So that's how we use Gitpod at Adyen. We use it for two things: for us to really quickly be able to work with all of the samples, whatever the language, without having to care about setup. And we also use it so that our merchants have a good developer experience when they start trying. And I think I'm going to stop there because I hope it wasn't too underwhelming, but that's all I have to say for that part. I have one other thing to show, but I'll stop here. Maybe if you have questions or remarks, then I'm listening in.
That was awesome. I'm looking forward for the second part, so we'll just pause here. There is a question that came up from Lou that I thought was really good because it sort of alluded to what you were saying earlier. So what convinced you to take the leap if you were a skeptic of cloud developer environments before? Because you mentioned that at the start.
Right.
And you said you're an old man and you hate it and you don't want to get involved with it. So why? Why did you get involved?
No, but I think it's all about I think friction. I think friction is just the single word that defines everything. And for example, if I work on the Kotlin environment, if I do a sample in Kotlin, I'm still going to use my own little thing because I'm sitting at home. I have everything I need. I have shortcuts. Now, if I'm going in a PHP sample and I just want to show something or upgrade a dependency, then I'm faster off just clicking on the Gitpod button. So for me, it just stops that friction. So it depends on the task I have at hand. So if I do 4 hours of full-blown development, I'll be honest, I'm still using my own Java local thing. For everything that's very temporary, for closing an issue or reproducing a customer thing on something that I don't have on my laptop, it's good enough that I, for example, don't have the environment set up for Go anymore on my laptop because I know Gitpod is there for me for that. If I want to try out Java, I'm doing Java every day and every night anyways, so I have my stuff on locally. But for anything that's further away from my setup that's already ready for me, I'm going to go for Gitpod because it's setting up everything for me. That's about it for me. Friction.
Okay, fair. If anyone has any follow-up questions to that, let me know. But we have another question I'll just throw in now. So how was your experience using Java in Gitpod? Are you using VS Code or JetBrains on desktop desktop or browser? And is there any answer that first and then I'll ask you the other questions.
I'm reading the whole question, seeing if I can bring them together. I don't think I'm the best target to talk about the Java experience. Well, maybe. Let me think. Still not convinced personally. I've tried it locally. Okay, let me say it. It's personal. The way I use Java with Gitpod is always online. I don't go local for a very simple reason is that I have a better setup. I'll call it better, like a setup that I'm more familiar with on my local machine right now. I have tried the JetBrains gateway thing. It's actually much better than I was expecting. But because I mostly still work in a browser, I didn't flick the switch on it in the preferences because in a given day, I will start my morning using Java, then I'll move to Python, I'll do some Kotlin. So it's easier for me to have VS Code browser set up personally, simply because it's just there and that's it. I don't know if that really answers your question. One thing that I really liked is working in a train, for example. So if you have low bandwidth, then I didn't realize it until I was like, oh yeah, of course it just makes sense because I don't download the stuff anymore on my laptop, right? But when you're on the train and you're working and you're doing a Maven clean install for some reason and then you hate yourself because you're on very spotty connection, Gitpod doesn't have that problem, right? Because it's in a server somewhere. That's one thing that I like about those cloud environments is you don't depend as much on a good connection, for example, for dependencies. Does that answer your question, Lou? Extension setup. I typically go fast enough that I don't install them, to be fair. Like for Java specifically, I have set them up as like they're being offered for our people that try out the things. I'm just saying, hey, this is the Python extension, you should install it. But I don't do extensive enough work that I use it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If I'm correct, then from what I hear, it seems like you use Gitpod, I suppose, when you're hopping between projects a little bit for the live preview and kind of stuff, and then maybe there are some cases where you're like a hybrid, I suppose, hybrid user where you maybe break out and do some local stuff as well.
And it would be the same answer for me between VS Code and IntelliJ. Like there's always this, I prefer VS Code, I prefer IntelliJ. Like I'm not married. I use VS Code because it fires fast. For anything I do that's quick. For very small Java projects, I'm going to use VS Code. If I start doing some Kotlin, I'm going to use IntelliJ. End of story. It's just, there's not enough time for religion, I guess. It's just about whatever feels right at the right moment. Sometimes I just even go VI because I just need to change one character. Like it's really just at the moment what I have under my at the moment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We've certainly heard, especially from people that do a lot of open source as well, that the way that Gitpod does IDE preferences right now actually kind of leans a little bit into what you're saying on the sort of religious side, like developers having a specific kind of IDE that they prefer. But certainly people also in open source or people that are moving between IDEs have also asked us as well, like, can we make it more flexible somehow? Like, can I kind of choose when I start a workspace or something like that as well?
I have been forced to work like remotely before, as in a VM in a data center somewhere. And I have to say, for me personally, the fact that you can run local is what convinced me. And it's funny because it convinced me, and at the same time, I most of the time don't use it. But I would not have considered it seriously had I not been able to run it local. Like, I mean, it's not on my local installation of VS Code. For me, that's a must-have. For some reason, I do have to get my kid off school, and I want to show you something nice. So
yeah, that's fine.
That question.
Yeah, go on, Julien. Do you want to do the second part now? Yeah.
Yeah. But I see one question. Can you come on? Gitpod does not require strong. Oh yeah. I mean, it's and it's I actually have a second use case for it, which is workshops. Right. I don't know if you've ever done a workshop, but you come in a room and then you're with 30 other people and you're going to do an introduction to Kafka, right? And then the first thing that people ask, like, get your laptops out and download this 1 gigabyte image, or like do a Maven clean install. And then you have 30 people in the room at the same time doing Maven clean install, downloading half the internet, and everything stalls because there's too much bandwidth all of a sudden. The spike's crazy. It takes 30 minutes to get your dependencies down. That doesn't happen with Gitpod. For two reasons, maybe, and I feel like I'm selling the product too much, but there's two obvious reasons. The first one is, well, again, if you use Gitpod, you're on a data center, right, somewhere, so you don't depend on the local network so much because you would answer that better, Lou and Pauline, but it's just rendering that's happening and what you're typing, that the bandwidth has nothing compared to downloading dependencies, because the dependencies are being downloaded somewhere else remote. And the second thing is the pre-built, right? If your 30 people are going to be using the same image, then first one's going to bear the cost of, starting it up, and everybody else is going to just basically enjoy the fact that it's already pre-built and it's there for you. So you don't do 30 times the work. Does it answer your question? Yeah, on the train is kind of the same thing, right? If I'm on a train and I have a connection, it comes and it goes and it's not there. If I was downloading, if I do a game install and I have to download 500 megabytes, then I would depend totally on everything being there before I can work. Now, if that is being done on a server and I'm just working, then I can work faster, right? I don't depend on that. Okay, nice.
Go ahead. Yep.
No transition. Moving to the second thing, I was writing an article about Gitpod not so long ago, and one thing that frustrated me is it's not easy to find Gitpod stuff like Gitpodified repositories on GitLab and GitHub. So I built something, and so do you still see my screen or not? Yes, you do.
Yes.
All right. I created this little thing called gitpodified.fly.dev, which you can go, and it's basically an API that gives you a list of Gitpodified repositories from GitHub. So, like for example, if I wanted to get a list of the Java repos on GitHub that contain Gitpod, then I find 9 at the moment, and then yeah, I can have the URL here. Most of them are not that used, but this guy, okay. Yeah, Gitpod, ready to code. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. But for example, I can do, all the repos and then sort them by the number of stars, and then we find the most successful thing that has Gitpod, and that's like create T3 app. I don't even know what that is actually. Right, it's the quickest way to start a new web app with full stack type safety. And then, sure enough, there is a Gitpod file in there somewhere. Yeah, there. At the moment, still crawling in the background because I'm having a lot of problems with the GitHub search API because there, a whole lot of problems I can talk to you more about. But at the moment, I have like about 3,000 repositories in my database. Let's contribute.dev.
Yeah, it's a very similar concept, I think. But I wanted to ask.
The same. No, because I asked in the chat. Like I ask a question. Why can I find a list of all of the Gitpod projects? And then someone said, Google it. I was like, that's not good enough. So I've just built it. Okay, you have a better version. Great.
Is it essentially just to show a list of Gitpodified projects? Was that what you were trying to achieve?
Where's Gitpod out there? That was my only question. Like, what's the biggest Java repo on GitHub? Like biggest as in most famous that uses Gitpod? So that was my old question. But you've built it, so that's great. Now I've learned something. Awesome. Yeah, that's all there is.
Still, it's pretty cool. It's still pretty cool that you built that. And maybe we can share it internally and see if we can merge the two together because that's still pretty cool. Yeah, people in the chat says it's good. Yeah, it is a totally different approach. Lou is correct.
Well, maybe I can just share the crawler and then you populate contributor. If you guys have a front end, so it's much better. Like I'm not going to build a front end. So,
I'm definitely going to share this in my team because we've been looking at ways to improve that contribute.dev website in general.
What we can do is maybe share it broader so people know about it because I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. No, that's all there is.
Amazing. Does anyone have who's still on the call? Does anyone else have any more questions for Julien before? Because I know he needs to drop off soon. So, is there any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of minutes. Yeah.
I just
had
an idea. This is Ofer. Hi. Very cool demo. Thank you for that. And been dealing a lot with URL and environment variables and things like that. And I think my thought is if any way people need to go through a page to get their API, I can think of a very simple JavaScript application that gives them, because they're logged in, their API built in. Then, if you want, you could allow it within the workspace to automatically send it to their account. So they need that special link only once. Later on, they can go to GitHub and use it because their environment variable is going to be in it. Just so you know, if you add it from a workspace, automatically it will be specific. These variables will be specifically available for that repo and not in general. But I think they could go to their setting and make it generic.
Where would you store that information?
So there's a GP command in Gitpod in the terminal.
Yeah.
So the JavaScript itself, because I'm logged in to your application, would give me the API in a URL. Other people can't see that URL because I'm logged in. When I open that URL with my permission, I access and I have everything ready without going to Gitpod setting and set it up there.
Right. Yeah.
In Gitpod YAML, if you're interested, you can make it automatic that it adding from the workspace new environment variables to Gitpod. So the next time you don't have to open the account page, they can actually open it from GitHub, and they'll have the API keys.
It would. I like the idea. If I understand correctly, it would require us to kind of integrate and officialize the link with Gitpod, which I don't think that's something that we're ready to do, I guess. But yeah, from a developer's experience point of view, I think it makes a lot of sense. That's the first thing you do, right? You create an account, you try it, and boom, you want a sample running, right? And once you have your sample, then you modify it. Yeah, I hear it. Thanks.
Yeah, very cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for the demo.
Thanks, Ofer. Also lovely to hear from you. Is there any other questions for Julien here? So many people typing in the chat. I'm like just watching out.
That's good because I was faking like I was coming to present something. What actually is like I'm getting support for free. Nice.
We're a supportive community, Julien. You need to hang out here more often.
Yeah. If only I didn't have like 15 Discords. I wish. Yeah. Nice.
Any more questions? Because if not, I think the chat's gone quiet. If not, then Julien, thank you so much for joining us and giving this awesome demo. I'd definitely love to have you back here maybe in future office hours because you do loads of really cool stuff with Gitpod for your workshops and things as well. Maybe we can have a dedicated session around how you set up your workshops or something. That's just a random idea. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining this office hours. I think we're going to close it off there. So we have an extra half an hour. In the next 2 weeks, we actually have a Gitpodder session with, I think it's Adyen, one of our engineers, who's going to show us some cool things, and also one of our community heroes, Sarah, who's very active in the Astro community, and she'll be giving a bit of a demo on how she uses Gitpod for documentation. Keep an eye out on that. You can check it out on the left-hand side. There's the events, and just if you join it, you'll be able to get like a notification in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and I think we'll end it there. Have a good day.